This online guide is designed for strategic Apex Legends players looking to improve their rank and overall gameplay. Whether you're aiming for smarter rotations, better positioning, or more consistent decision-making, these tips will help you play predictably in a way that gives you the competitive edge. Predictable Apex Legends players may not rely on flashy movement or erratic playstyles, but they excel in consistency, strategy, and execution. Their disciplined approach makes them reliable teammates who thrive in structured gameplay. Here are the top skill sets they possess: game sense and positioning mastery, strategic rotations. Predictable players study zone patterns and rotate early, ensuring they avoid getting pinched by multiple squads. They position themselves for the endgame rather than chasing unnecessary fights. Example, instead of pushing a fight blindly, they secure high ground or cover, forcing enemies into bad positions. Holding strong positions. They control key areas rather than running around aimlessly. They anticipate enemy movements and set up favorable fights. Example, they gatekeep enemies outside the ring, forcing them into a tough fight while holding a power position. Team coordination and communication, clear callouts. They relay enemy positions, rotations, and shield levels effectively, ensuring their team always has intel. They prioritize team decision-making over reckless solo plays. Example, instead of third-partying without warning, they communicate the risk and ensure teammates are ready. Consistent playstyle for team chemistry. Teammates know what to expect, allowing for better synergy in fights. They don't take unnecessary risks, ensuring team survival over flashy plays. Example, instead of challenging a 1v3, they back off and regroup with the team. Mechanical consistency, reliable aim and tracking. They may not be the flashiest, but they consistently land shots, maximizing damage output. They practice recoil control for key weapons to ensure steady performance. Example, they prioritize mid-range engagements, where their aim consistency gives them an advantage. Disciplined recoil control. They burst fire at long range and don't waste ammo unnecessarily. They adjust their aim based on enemy movement rather than spraying and praying. Example, instead of spraying a full clip at a moving enemy, they fire in controlled bursts to maximize accuracy. Resource and economy management, efficient looting. They don't waste time over looting, they grab what they need and move on. They prioritize ammo, shields, and grenades over unnecessary items. Example, they always carry a balanced inventory, never running out of heals or ammo mid-fight. Smart ability and ultimate usage. They use abilities strategically rather than impulsively. They save their ultimates for the right moment, ensuring maximum impact. Example, a Gibraltar main holds their defensive bombardment until the final ring, instead of wasting it on a single enemy. Risk management and decision-making, knowing when to fight and when to retreat. They pick winnable fights and disengage from high-risk situations. They avoid unnecessary third-party engagements unless they have a clear advantage. Example, instead of pushing into a full health squad with red shields, they rotate for a better position. Prioritizing survival over ego fights. They know when to back off, heal, and reset rather than forcing a fight they can't win. They don't chase unnecessary 1v1s, focusing on team play instead. Example, instead of overextending for a kill, they fall back and regroup to maintain team strength. While predictable players may not be flashy, they win through strategy, consistency, and teamwork. Their calculated decision-making, mechanical reliability, and strong positioning make them the backbone of a well-rounded squad. Game sense and positioning mastery. Mastering game sense and positioning separates skilled players from those who rely solely on mechanical ability. Understanding how to rotate, hold strong positions, and manipulate engagements leads to more consistent victories. Strategic rotations. Smart players don't just react to the zone, they predict its movement and rotate ahead of time to secure strong positions. They avoid unnecessary fights in bad locations and focus on positioning for in-game dominance rather than short-term eliminations. They remain aware of third-party threats, ensuring they don't get sandwiched between multiple squads. Example. Instead of recklessly pushing a fight in a dangerous location, they prioritize high ground or natural cover. If they hear two squads fighting, rather than rushing in without thinking, they position themselves strategically, waiting for the right moment to engage when enemies are weak or exposed. Common mistake to avoid. Late rotations into the zone can force a team into unfavorable fights, especially when running in the open. Not considering enemy positioning when moving, players who rotate without awareness often end up getting pinched. Holding strong positions. Control over high ground, buildings, or natural cover provides a tactical advantage. Strong positions limit enemy movement, force them into difficult engagements, and give better angles for fights. Instead of aimlessly moving around, experienced players use map awareness to hold key locations and anticipate enemy movements. Example: gatekeeping. If an enemy team is outside the ring, a smart player team will hold a power position near the zone's edge, forcing enemies to fight while dealing with the storm. Defensive play. If they hold a building with multiple exits and clear sightlines, they control engagements rather than getting caught in chaotic fights. Common mistake to avoid. Abandoning strong positions for unnecessary fights, chasing kills without considering long-term survival. Not reinforcing defensive areas, holding a building but leaving doors open or failing to use traps, shields, or abilities to fortify their position. Game sense is about playing smarter, not harder. Players who predict rotations, control high-value positions, and avoid reckless fights gain a massive advantage. Positioning well means forcing enemies into bad situations rather than getting forced into them. Team coordination and communication. Effective team coordination and communication are the backbone of high-level gameplay. Whether in battle royales, tactical shooters, or team-based games, clear communication and a consistent playstyle lead to better synergy, smarter engagements, and more victories. Clear callouts. Successful teams operate with precise, concise, and timely callouts that provide valuable intel. Instead of generic phrases like "they're over there," skilled players communicate exact enemy locations, shield levels, and movement patterns to help their teammates make informed decisions. They prioritize teamwork over reckless solo plays, ensuring every engagement is coordinated rather than chaotic. Example: instead of blindly rushing into a third-party fight, they first call out enemy positions, assess whether the squad is weak or still fighting, and make sure teammates are ready before engaging. Instead of panicking when getting shot, they calmly say, "Two enemies pushing from the left, one cracked, one full shields," allowing teammates to adjust positioning. Common mistake to avoid. Overloading teammates with unnecessary info. Good callouts are brief and relevant, not a constant stream of unnecessary details. Silent gameplay, not communicating enemy movements, rotations, or danger zones, which leaves teammates unaware of key threats. Consistent playstyle for team chemistry. A predictable and disciplined playstyle creates trust and synergy within the team. Teammates learn each other's tendencies, making it easier to coordinate attacks, defensive plays, and rotations. Instead of taking high-risk solo plays, they prioritize team survival and smart engagements. Example: regrouping instead of ego challenging. Instead of taking a 1v3 fight and leaving teammates at a disadvantage, they fall back, regroup, and engage together. Holding angles and playing off teammates. If one teammate is in a gunfight, instead of rushing in recklessly, they cover sidelines, apply pressure, or flank strategically to support. Common mistake to avoid. Inconsistent decision-making, one moment playing passively, the next recklessly pushing a fight alone. This confuses teammates and disrupts team chemistry. Ignoring team dynamics, playing selfishly, not providing cover, or not adjusting strategy based on team composition. A team that communicates well and plays with consistency will outperform even mechanically superior opponents. The best teams don't just rely on skill, they rely on trust, coordination, and smart decision-making. Mechanical consistency. Mechanical skill is the foundation of high-level gameplay, but consistency is what separates great players from streaky ones. Players who refine their aim, tracking, and recoil control can reliably maximize their damage output, giving them an edge in fights across different ranges. Reliable aim and tracking. Players with consistent aim don't rely on flashy flick shots or lucky headshots. They focus on landing steady, high-percentage hits that wear down opponents over time. They understand the difference between tracking and precise crosshair placement for single-shot accuracy. They practice using key weapons in their preferred range, ensuring they don't take fights where they are at a disadvantage. Example: a player who specializes in mid-range combat will prioritize fights in open areas rather than forcing close-range battles where shotguns or SMGs dominate. Instead of panicking and spraying wildly, they stay calm, control their crosshair movement, and ensure each shot lands effectively. Common mistakes to avoid: overflicking, focusing on flashy movements instead of smooth, controlled aim. Lack of crosshair discipline, keeping the crosshair too low or too high instead of at head or chest level for quick shots. Disciplined recoil control. Instead of holding down the trigger and hoping for the best, skilled players master burst firing, recoil control, and tracking enemy movement to maximize accuracy and preserve ammo. They know how different weapons behave, allowing them to make quick adjustments when switching guns mid-fight. They adapt their shooting method based on distance, full auto for close range, burst fire for mid-range, and tap firing for long range. Example: if an enemy is moving at long range, they won't waste an entire magazine by spraying full auto. Instead, they use controlled bursts, letting the recoil reset between shots. If they engage at mid-range, they actively counteract the weapon's recoil pattern. Common mistakes to avoid: spraying uncontrollably, wasting an entire magazine and missing most shots. Not adjusting for distance, using full auto at long range instead of bursting or tap firing. Ignoring recoil patterns, not practicing weapon control, leading to inconsistent accuracy. Mechanical consistency isn't about hitting one insane clip, it's about repeating solid performances every fight. Players who master steady aim, recoil control, and tracking become reliable assets in any engagement. Resource and economy management in high-stakes matches. Managing resources efficiently can mean the difference between survival and elimination. Skilled players loot quickly, manage their inventory wisely, and use abilities at the right time to ensure they have the upper hand in fights. Efficient looting. Overlooting is a common mistake that leaves players vulnerable. Instead of digging through every death box, top players grab essentials and reposition quickly. They focus on a balanced inventory, ensuring they never run out of critical resources in the middle of a fight. They adjust their looting priorities based on the stage of the game. Early game may require more ammo, while late game focuses on shield management and grenades. Example: a disciplined looter keeps an ideal balance. Ammo, enough to sustain fights but not so much that it limits space for other necessities. Healing items, at least 2 stacks of shields and meds to survive prolonged fights. Grenades, at least 1 or 2 grenades for breaking defenses or forcing enemies out of cover. They don't hoard unnecessary items like excessive syringes or extra attachments they don't need. Common mistakes to avoid: spending too much time looting while teammates move ahead or engage enemies. Hoarding unnecessary items instead of leaving room for more practical resources. Running out of shields or ammo mid-fight due to poor inventory management. Smart ability and ultimate usage. Instead of using abilities on impulse, strategic players maximize their impact by saving them for critical moments. They understand the best timing and positioning for their ultimate abilities, ensuring they turn fights in their favor. They communicate ability usage with teammates, ensuring synergy in engagements. Example: a Gibraltar main doesn't waste their defensive bombardment on a single enemy hiding behind cover. Instead, they save it for the final ring, forcing enemies out of cover in a critical moment. A Wraith player doesn't waste their dimensional rift randomly but places it strategically to allow teammates to escape or reposition in a high-risk fight. A Bangalore player doesn't use Rolling Thunder as a panic button but rather to zone enemies or separate teams during an engagement. Common mistakes to avoid: using ultimates too early or in ineffective scenarios. Holding onto abilities for too long and missing critical moments to turn the fight. Using movement abilities without considering cover, enemy positions, or the next zone rotation. Efficient looting and smart ability management are what separate good players from great ones. Those who balance their inventory, avoid overlooting, and time their abilities well will always have the upper hand in battle. Risk management and decision-making in high-level gameplay. Not every fight is worth taking. Skilled players evaluate risks, position strategically, and prioritize survival over reckless engagements. The best decision-makers know when to push, retreat, or rotate, ensuring they maintain an advantage throughout the match. Knowing when to fight and when to retreat. They assess fights before committing, considering factors like team health, enemy positioning, and third-party risks. They don't take unwinnable fights. They understand that sometimes the best play is not engaging at all and instead rotating to a stronger position. Example: if an enemy squad is inside a defensible building and their team lacks grenades or entry abilities, they don't rush blindly. Instead, they hold an angle or force them out with positioning. If their team just finished a fight and another squad is approaching, they quickly rotate out instead of staying in a vulnerable spot. Instead of pushing into a full health squad with red shields, they fall back, loot, and reposition for a more favorable engagement. Common mistakes to avoid: taking fights without cover, engaging in the open with no escape plan. Forcing fights against better-equipped teams, pushing red shield enemies while only having blue shields. Not paying attention to third-party risks, engaging without awareness of nearby squads that can clean up. Prioritizing survival over ego fights. What it means: they don't chase unnecessary kills if it means overextending and getting eliminated. They recognize that staying alive is more valuable than winning a 1v1 duel. They prioritize team play and positioning over flashy, high-risk plays. Example: instead of chasing an enemy deep into enemy territory, they hold their ground and regroup with teammates. When taking damage, they don't force a fight, they retreat, heal, and re-engage on their terms. If a teammate goes down in an exposed area, they assess whether reviving is worth the risk or if repositioning is the better play. Common mistakes to avoid: overextending for a kill, chasing an enemy into a bad position and getting eliminated. Ignoring team positioning, taking a risky fight without backup or communication. Forcing unnecessary 1v1 fights, focusing too much on individual duels rather than team survival. Smart players win more by fighting less. They know when to engage, when to back off, and when to play the long game. Instead of taking every fight, they focus on positioning, survival, and strategy to secure consistent wins.